Hey everybody, welcome to Controversy or Reality, where we discuss controversial topics. Today's topic is jihad and war and religion. Why do all religious books and religion in general call to war, promote violence, and instill the principle of racism, marginalization, and exclusion of those who do not believe in the existence of God? Karaz here with me to further discuss this topic.
Thank you, Muhammad. This is actually a defamation to God and to his religion. Religions of God are clear and straightforward in their stance and refusal of racism. Allah said in chapter 49, verse 13, O you mankind, surely we created you of male and a female, and we made you races and tribes that you may get mutually acquainted. Surely the most honorable among you in the providence of Allah are the most pious. Surely Allah is ever knowing, ever cognizant.
Yeah.
There's no difference between one person and another, male and female, black or white. Everyone is equal in the test of life. Everyone is equal in the ability to progress to the highest levels or the ability to go down to the lowest of levels. Whoever claims other than this either has no knowledge of the religion of God or took the interpretation of these texts from those who are not qualified to do so.
But there are many verses in the religious books that call to war and violence against others, especially those who disbelieve.
I think you're referring to the texts that talk about racism and violence, which are actually only put down as religious guidelines. I'll only be referring to the verses from the Quran, as other books have been altered and distorted in recent times.
Yeah.
And they mention texts about the Prophet which are completely untrue and which go against human morality. The texts in the Quran, which some believe instigate racism and marginalization, are not a set of rules which define what a Muslim is, or which by every Muslim needs to live his life by, but rather they are guidelines which they have to believe in as a Muslim.
Yeah.
The first of which are the submission to God and the ones appointed by Him. This has been the case since the first human on earth, Adam, who was appointed by God as his successor.
Yeah.
As God states in chapter 3, verse 85, and whoever desires other than Islam as a religion, never will it be accepted from him, and he in the hereafter will be amongst the losers. These verses don't promote racism, violence, or exclusion of others. Rather, they are a set of beliefs that Muslims have to believe in.
Okay, so if someone believes that these rules are actually promoting marginalization and exclusion of others, then according to this opinion, we can say that any group that have a certain belief actually promote exclusion of others that don't share the same belief. And of course, any sane person will not agree with that.
Exactly. When referring to the non-Muslims as a disbeliever, the Quran isn't promoting their exclusion or hatred towards them. Every religion, actually humanity in general, has aversion towards disobedience, evil, oppression, and hatred, and every bad quality. And it's not referring to the aversion towards those who don't believe in Islam.
Yeah.
The hatred is not pointed to the person himself, but rather to his actions and characteristics.
Okay, so then what do you say about the groups that are creating war and killing in the name of Islam?
All statutory laws ensure the right of self-defense by setting guidelines to be abided by. And such is the case with war. However, religious war has strict rules, the most important of which is the presence of a divine ruler appointed by God.
Okay, so you're trying to say that you can't judge religion based on those that fight in the name of religion without the permission or command from the one appointed by God.
Yeah, it's oppression to religion to blame the crimes of those who use its name to fight and rule without permission from God through his successor. There are texts and Quranic verses that state the law of war, the rights and obligations. However, there are so-called men of religion that misuse the verses. They take verses from the Quran that were written for specific situations at specific times, such as the time of the Prophet, and they use it as a general rule system outside its scope. In actuality, the Quran should be taken as a whole rather than bits and pieces according to each individual's desires.
Yeah.
These verses are only to be implemented by those who they were received by, and they are, as mentioned before, those appointed by God and no one else.
Okay, so we've been talking for a while now, and you've mentioned many verses in the Quran. Can you present any, like, state any verses that will support what you're stating?
Yeah, of course. Well, whoever revises the Quran will realize the following. First, a text very clearly stating, chapter 2, verse 190. Fight in the way of Allah those who fight you, but do not transgress. Indeed, Allah does not like transgressors. Secondly, there are verses that specify unless they are defensive wars, the war has to be declared, and only by the one appointed by God.
Okay.
Thirdly, there are verses that specify the laws, the rights and behaviors during war, which to those who don't believe in the Quran regard as general rule. However, they are controversial verses which only apply to, for example, soldiers who are at war, where they have the right to kill those who fight them
Yeah.
and try to kill them. Or some talk about slaves in war. However, these verses and their understanding are controversial. And as stated before, we don't take parts of the Quran by bits and pieces according to our liking, but we take it as a whole. And the fact of the matter is that the Quran clearly states we do not start war and transgress against others, but only fight those who fight you.
Okay, thank you very much, Karal, for the discussion. It was very informative.
Thank you for having me.
To conclude this episode, what we learned today is that contrary to popular belief, the Quran doesn't call to war and violence from Muslims. Rather, it's only in cases of self-defense or when God himself declares a war through his successor. Thank you all for watching. Tune into another episode of Controversy or Reality for another controversial topic.